We are very, very excited to welcome you back to St. this weekend as we are able to gather again for our weekend Mass. It kind of feels like Christmas around here, and so it's an exciting time, and I wanted to put together this little video of what you might expect when you come back this weekend. If you haven't had a chance to see my Tuesday update, I hope you might take a look at the first 5 minutes. There's just kind of an overview and just some general comments and a context to why we're doing it. I think you'll find it to be quite useful. Certainly going to need your patience and your understanding this weekend. This is all new to us. So we got our ambassador, which are mainly our staff. We've run through this several times. We think we're well prepared, but there's going to be some kinks along the way that we're going to have to straighten out. But thanks for your patience and understanding as we try to get this right. Each Mass will have a 10 ambassador team that will guide you and answer any questions. You can see a couple of our ambassadors back here have the orange tag on them. So that identifies us as an ambassador, and they will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have, and I certainly appreciate all their help. Just know that everything we do in this time is to try and keep you safe. And there's a lot of hoops to jump through, but as long as we're getting back together and we are keeping people safe, and as I said, even if we're saving one person from getting this COVID-19, it's all worth it. It's all worth it. So our Masses are going to be at 25% capacity. So for us here at St. Pius, that's about 200 people. You can see that every other pew here is roped off. And remember, we joke about at Christmas and Easter, somebody may be sitting in your pew. Well, it's a good chance that somebody now is going to be sitting in your pew. So we're going to ask again for your patience on that. We're going to have 2 Masses this weekend. We'll have a 5 p.m. on Saturday evening, and then we'll have the 10 a.m. on Sunday. We will have an overflow. If we do exceed the 200, we've set up the parish center with 70 spaced out chairs. We've got an excellent live stream down there, and we will bring communion down to you, down to the parish center, if we need that. There's lots of ways. I've looked at a lot of churches. How do they determine who gets in the church? Some places do it by you gotta go online. It's almost like an airport. You either got to get your reservation on the phone, or you got to bring a reservation to show the ambassadors on the way in. I didn't feel comfortable doing that because I'm sensitive to those who don't have a computer, those who just don't feel comfortable, maybe don't have a printer. But I felt as if that was excluding them. So we have to go with the first come, first serve. And so I ask your patience on that. That may not be the best way. Maybe we'll change it, but I think I want to start off with that way. I think it's the fairest way. So before you arrive for Mass, I'm going to ask you to do a couple things. First of all, wash your hands for 20 seconds before you come. All children and adults, we're going to ask you to bring a face mask, and we're going to ask you to wear it from your car all through Mass and on the way back to your car. We will have extra face masks here if you forget them. We're going to temporarily put off our kids' Bible and also suspend babysitting for obvious reasons. Please bring your own hand sanitizer. The only time you're going to need it is right before communion and right after communion. But if you could bring that in your pocket, in your purse, that will be helpful. And if you can avoid any sort of bleach products, we were told they ruin our pews. So please avoid that if you can. So in terms of seating, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to ask everybody to enter through the main doors, through the main doors. And we're going to open those doors 20 minutes before the start of Mass. And the reason we're doing that is, they tell us to try and minimize the number of people in an enclosed space. So 20 minutes before we'll open up those doors, there's going to be ambassadors. So we'll have 2 ambassadors outside. They'll be there to help answer questions. They'll have extra face masks. They'll make sure you got your face mask on. You'll come into the foyer area, 2 more. And those ambassadors are going to have some hand sanitizer if you need that. They're also going to be counting so we know when we get to the... And they're also going to encourage you to space out as you come into the church. And so Liz is going to come up here through this thing now. And so she'll be coming in with her or family, or even if she's by herself. The side aisles are going to be seated first, and they're going to be back to front. And so you see as this is going up through, there's a minister right at the head of the aisle that's going to tell her which direction to go. And there'll be another minister at the head of the side aisles that's going to show her where to go. And then there'll be another ambassador in the back that will tell her which pew to go into. And she probably, if she's the first one in the pew, she'll be encouraged to go to the end of the pew so that other people can come in. Of course, we can share pews. If it were from the same household, the same family, we can sit shoulder to shoulder. If we're not from the same family, then we're going to want to do a 6-foot pew spacing, but that's what our ambassadors are going to be able to help us with in terms of trying to maximize the space in the pew, but always maintaining that 6-foot safe distance. We're not going to have any seating in the choir lofts. There will be once we reach the seating capacity, the ambassadors out there are going to know that we've hit 200. They're going to ask anybody, if we do get to that point, they'll ask people to go around, go to the circle, and come into the parish center. There will be ambassadors there to help you. Those chairs over there are 6-foot spacing. There's 75 of them over there. So we will live stream over there and then bring communion to you over there in the parish center. In terms of our Mass, it's going to go very much like you've seen our live stream Masses. We've reduced the number of lay ministers. So there's going to be no gift bearers, there's no altar servers, there's no choir, there's no sacristans. There won't be any hymnals or liturgy sheets in your pews. The whole idea of touching things, we're asked not to do that. So when you come into the pew, there will be nothing in your pew. If you want the Thursday constant contact, you can print out the sheets for the Mass. They have the readings, they have the hymns, they have the prayers. You're welcome to print those out, bring them with you, but we would ask that you bring them home with you. Don't leave them in the pew. We're going to ask you to keep your face mask on during the entire Mass, except for the moment you put the host in your mouth. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to ask that no physical contact between families at the sign of peace or holding hands at the Our Father for obvious reasons. This is a very, very appropriate time to do a sign of peace by waving or a verbal sign of peace. Communion will be distributed by one Eucharistic minister at the head of the 3 aisles. And we'll do that in a minute. We won't take up a collection with an usher. What we'll do is we will put at the exits a basket and a sign for offertory. So when you leave the church at the end, we'd ask you to put your offertory into that basket. So in terms of our communion procedure, I thought I would just go through that so you can kind of get a visual to what we're going to be asking people to do. And the first thing, we're going to be asking people to take communion in your hand, not on your tongue. It'll be distributed again by a total of our 3 Eucharistic ministers. We will be wearing face masks when we distribute communion. I'm not going to put this on now because you can't hear me talk as we do this, but on Saturday night and Sunday, I will have this on. So we'll have an ambassador that will come out. Everybody's going to take their hand sanitizer. They're going to clean their hands, and they're going to make their way up through. They're going to come and one bank at a time, right? So we're going to do this bank first, then we'll do this bank. And they'll come up at 6-foot spacing to get communion. So they come up, I'll say the body of Christ, I put the host, they keep the mask on, but they slide off to the side 6 foot away or 12 feet away. They've got their masks on, pull their mask down. They take their communion, put the mask back on, and go back to their pew. And then it's a 6-foot spacing. When they get back to their pew, they're going to use their hand sanitizer again after they've returned. If you need a gluten-free host, come to me. I'll have them. You don't need to come back and tell me. I'll have extra ones with me, so come to me if you need a gluten-free host. So we won't be blessing children. Remember, we like to try and bless children on the forehead, but for the time being, we're not going to do that for obvious reasons. Now, in terms of how we're going to get out, how we leave. So after the final blessing in the hymn, we're going to ask you to stay in your pew, okay? Stay in your pew, and we're going to dismiss in an orderly fashion from the rear, okay? From the rear, and that's when our ambassadors will come and help you. It's going to be just like an airplane. So we're going to ask you to please promptly leave when the ambassador comes over to you. We're going to use all 3 exits. Okay, so we're just going to go right out the 3 exits. We're going to ask that you not stay and do prayers afterwards because we've got to sanitize the church. So we would ask you to please leave. We'd ask you to keep your face mask on all the way out until you get to your car. You can, again, those offering baskets are going to be on your way out through. If you could help us out with that, we'd appreciate it. We ask you not to congregate, and that is really hard because we haven't seen each other in a long time. But again, the intent is not congregating in groups that could potentially pass this. So we got to try and go back to our cars. I know one of the things that I find very difficult for me is, the diocese asks the priests not to be outside to greet people on the way in and not to be outside to greet them on the way out. And but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do what they've asked. So I'm going to start from the sacristy and I'll go back in the sacristy. I won't be out there to greet you, but just know it's because I've been asked not to do that. Please don't leave anything in the pew. If you brought anything, again, we're asking you not to bring anything other than those liturgy sheets, but please take anything you brought with you. And then once people leave, we're going to clean the church. So that ambassador team, that 10-person team, is going to stay after, and we're going to clean the church. And we would ask, can you use just the bathrooms in the rear of the church? Because that reduces the amount of bathrooms we've got to clean. So if you need the bathroom, please use it, but we're going to have it in the back, and there'll be some sanitation materials back there for anything you touch that maybe you could clean it and sanitize it after you're finished. So that's a quick snapshot of what it's going to be this weekend. I thought you might find that useful. The key thing I think is we're going to need your patience and understanding until we get this thing totally figured out. And we are going to get it figured out. But there may be a few bumps in the road. We'll straighten it out. And we'll stay in contact with you through our constant contacts and our Tuesday updates of any changes. We make changes week to week, but we'll keep you informed. So it's going to be really good to see you this weekend. And can't wait to celebrate Mass with you on the Feast of Corpus Christi.